Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So I'm breaking down the Xfinity 500 at Martinsville Speedway on Sunday, November 1st, day before my birthday, at around 2 p.m. Eastern, which should be a very entertaining race. If you guys have watched my videos for quite some time, you know I absolutely love super speedways, and I love short track racing, and we are getting a short track here in Martinsville, which is it's a very, very small track, and it's also the race before the championship race at Phoenix next Sunday. So there's going to be a lot on the line here. There's a couple of guys that absolutely need to win this race, and it should be a pretty good one. If you guys remember the Martinsville race earlier in the season, it was one of the midweek races on a Wednesday night. It was absolute chaos. We saw so many good cars just be absolute junk at the beginning, fall all the way to the back, and a couple of guys made their way back up, and a couple of the guys just could not get back going. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen again, because that was a very, very stressful evening, although a lot of it ended up working out in the end. But it should be a very good race, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure you guys are as well. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. If you want to follow me over on Twitter, I'm at Pennell16, cpen16 over on IG. And if you want to support the content over on Patreon, that is always much appreciated. But the season is just about over. We only have 2 races left, including this one on Sunday. So maybe you want to wait until next season, but by some chance you want to, if you just want to help out the channel, the link is down below for that, and you get access to everything I have in the spreadsheet and an article and my Discord chat as well. But there's a ton of stuff on this spreadsheet, and it's what I use each and every single week. But I think that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's get into the preview of this race. So like previously mentioned, we have the Xfinity 500, which is a much shorter name than last week. So I do appreciate the sponsor being a nice and easy name to remember. And there's your outline of the track. It looks like a paperclip, and that's why it's known as the paperclip. This is Martinsville Speedway. It's a very short and flat track. It's about a half-mile in length. And the thing that's crazy is we have 500 laps, meaning dominator points are going to be super, super important this week. Just drill that into your head. We need to play dominators. Just so when you're building lineups this week, just put in your head dominators, 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 because you have to have them in your lineup to be able to take down a contest at Martinsville. Similar strategy to Bristol, which we've ran at a couple of times this season. So if you remember Bristol races, we needed dominators because there's a ton of laps here, and if you guys just don't have dominators in your lineup and you go straight PD, you're more than likely not going to win money unless every single dominator wrecks out of the race, which I just don't see that happening. This is not a super speedway, so just put that in your head. Dominator points, dominator points, dominator points. And also, just a quick note, they are going to be running the short track aero package, which is what they run at tracks that are smaller than Darlington, and it's just not high downforce, it's a low downforce, high horsepower, the aero package. So that's pretty much it for the preview of this race. Nothing else I really have to talk about. I guess you're going to want around 2 to 4 dominators per lineup. I know 4 dominators sounds a bit crazy, but if by some chance maybe Jimmy Johnson or Clint Boyer, guys that, well, Jimmy Johnson ran very well earlier in the season, even though he was starting in the 20s. He led around 70 laps. So, and he was like second in average green flag speed. So if that speed shows up again, he could, I guess, be counted on as a dominator. But if you're playing Jimmy Johnson, you're only counting on place differential points there. But Clint Boyer, he's kind of starting mid-pack. He could be a potential dominator here at Martinsville. He is pretty good here. And that's what I mean when you're running like 4 dominator laps, maybe like 4 guys that have the potential to lead laps. Like Christopher Bell, he's a mid-range play, but I'm not really expecting him to lead laps. Meanwhile, someone like Clint Boyer that has really good history here, he could potentially lead laps. So that's kind of what I mean when you're like going 4 dominator builds. But even then, because you're not going to be able to fit in 4 guys like Truex, Keselowski, Harvick, Chase Elliott, that's just not going to be possible in your lineups. At least I don't think so. I haven't built a lineup yet. I can't imagine that's going to be possible. But anywhere from 2 to 4 dominator builds, I won't have any with just 1 dominator. I know a couple of times we have seen Keselowski lead over 400 laps and Truex lead, I think, over 450 laps. So you really haven't like absolutely needed a second dominator, but I just don't really see that scenario happening again. I think for the most part, you need to build at least 2 dominator lineups, or I think you need to at least have 2 dominators per each lineup you build, and I think that's at the very least. I think it should be anywhere from 2 to 4 this weekend, but I think that's pretty much all I have to say for that, and I think we can get into the driver-by-driver breakdown at that point, and I think we're all pulled up here. So I will say DraftKings, they price up the dominators for sure, and I wouldn't say they actually price them up, but they put a lot of guys in the 10K and up range. Usually we don't see, I believe, like 6 guys above 10K, so it just feels like they price these guys up a little bit more, which is totally fine with me because they do realize that dominators are going to be pretty important at a track like Martinsville. But we'll start up top with Martin Truex Jr. at 11,800. He is starting second, and he's one of those guys that has to win this race, and I think there's a good chance it happens. If you made me throw $100 on who I thought was going to win this race, I would pick MTJ here. He's just super good here. He's averaging the most DraftKings points per race at Martinsville with over 100 DraftKings points per race, an average finish of 3.2, which is best of all drivers. Best average or second best average running position of 6.1, drive rating of 115.9, which is the best. 2 wins recently, 5 top 5s, and 6 top 10s. And he's led a ton of laps, 103 laps led per race in the most fast laps. So I'm a big fan of Martin Truex Jr. here, and I think he ends up in victory lane. And it'll probably be something similar to what we saw in the June race here, where he won in a lot of laps. So yeah, I like Truex a lot. He's good at these types of tracks. And if you're wondering what kind of tracks I'm looking at for the track type form, we're looking at similar flat tracks. I know Martinsville is pretty unique, but some other shorter flat tracks are Phoenix, New Hampshire, and Richmond that we could look at as well and look that in with Martinsville this weekend. But Truex, he's good at these too. I mean, averaging the second most DraftKings points per race at 82.3, one of the best average finishes of 6.1, and just overall some very, very strong numbers. And really, for the most part, we have the top 2 cars at these types of tracks starting 1 and 2. So, I mean, it's gonna be fun to see who wins this start to the race. But I definitely think both these guys have the opportunity to lead a ton of laps this week. And I actually think you can play both. Now, I know it doesn't feel great spending like nearly $24,000 on the guy starting first and second. But it's not a rule that just if one of these guys leads a ton of laps, that the other guy can't lead a lot of laps either. I know it's spending a ton of money on these two. And if you're doing that, you're probably sacrificing a guy like Joey Legano as a third dominator, or maybe even Kyle Busch, because that's a lot of money to pay up for. But there's a decent chance that both these guys could end up leading over 200 laps. And if they do that, they'll end up being optimal for sure. So you got to keep that in mind. But really, we have the top 2 cars starting 1-2 this weekend, and I like both quite a bit. Brad Keselowski, he's on the pole, so he's going to be in the best spot to lead a lot of laps this race. And 11,400, you get a slight discount here off of Martin Truex Jr., so I could see him maybe being a little bit higher owned. But man, I like both these guys a ton, and Keselowski's been awesome here in Martinsville. Average finish of 4.3, has 1 win, 5 top 5, 6 top 10s. Very, very similar numbers here to Martin Truex Jr., averaging 90 DraftKings points per race and over 100 laps led per race as well. And he's also crushed at these types of tracks too, 83.3 DraftKings points per race, which is the most of any driver. Average finish of 5.2, which is the best of any driver. 3 wins, 6 top 5s, over 100 laps led per race. So Brad Keselowski, I like him quite a bit. And he's another guy that definitely wouldn't mind getting into victory lane here as well, just to cement his spot in the Final Four. So yeah, I like these guys a lot, and they're definitely going to be staples of my lineup because I think there's a good chance that one of these guys, or maybe even both, leads over 100 laps in this race. Kevin Harvick, 11,000. He's starting 6th. It's going to sound weird to say this, but I'm not that big of a fan of Kevin Harvick this week, just because he doesn't typically dominate at Martinsville, especially recently, where he has 0 laps led per race. All these guys from Jimmy Johnson above have at least dominated some portion of Martinsville in the past couple of years. Kevin Harvick has not done that. He also only has 16.3 fast laps per race as well. So I don't really like his chances to get up front here. He's just going to have to get past Keselowski and Truex, which I have a hard time seeing him do. He's going to have to get past Denny Hammond, who is one of the best I was going to say short track racers, which he is good at short tracks, but he's really, really good at the flat tracks. And I'm really having a hard time seeing Kevin Harvick going to be able to get up to the front here and dominate. Now, I kind of said similar things at Bristol, where he hasn't really been the big dominator at Bristol. And, well, you know, in the Bristol night race, he came out and, I mean, he just absolutely crushed the entire field and was optimal. So keep that in mind. When I say that, I'm not fading the guy just because it is Kevin Harvick in the year 2020, and he has been absolutely phenomenal. He's a leader in points for a reason. It's just I kind of like a couple of other guys a little bit better. And, I mean, as long as Kevin Harvick doesn't get absolutely dusted here and just wreck out, he should be good to go for the Final Four. So it's not like he has to go absolutely balls to the wall here. But I still think Kevin Harvick should be a threat here, and he's definitely somebody you want exposure to. But if I'm building like 1 to 3 lineups, I have a hard time seeing Kevin Harvick making one of those. Ryan Blaney, 10,700. He's starting 10th. He's one of the better short track racers in the series right now, and he's got some pretty good numbers at Martinsville. Earlier this season in the summer, he was one of the guys. He started on the pole, and he was just one of those guys that was absolute junk to start the race, like absolute trash. I believe he was like in the 30s, if not close to it. ended up getting back up to the front and had one of the fastest cars, and I mean, he was a threat to lead at some points, and he actually ended up having a pretty good race, and I believe he made optimal too, and he was a very nice price tag. He was in the 8K range. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. He's now 10,700, so he definitely has to be a staple of your lineup. But starting 10th, you get a little bit of PD upside there, and it would not surprise me if he ends up getting up front at some point. And he's got some very good numbers here at Martinsville. One of the best driver ratings, one of the best average running positions, one of the best average finishes, 4 top 5 finishes the past 6 races here, which is phenomenal. Nearly 30 laps led per race, which I just noticed is actually, or not tied with Chase Elliott and Denny Hammond. I thought it was the same number. The 8 and 9 looked very similar, but it's actually tied with Denny Hammond and only 1 lap more than Chase Elliott. But a lot of fast laps, and I think Ryan Blaney is a pretty strong play here. I'd say he's more of a tournament play than a cash play, although you could pair him up with one of the upfront drivers like Truex and Keselowski, but even then that's a lot of money to pay up for these guys. But I'll definitely be paying up for Dominators this week. I have no issues with that, so definitely don't mind Blaney as a second Dominator to one of the other guys starting closer to the front just to lock in those early Dominator points, because there's a lot of laps in the first stage, and one of the guys starting up front is going to lead a lot of laps in this race. I know things can change after the competition caution, but I would imagine one of those guys up front is going to lead a large chunk of laps to begin this race. And Ryan Blaney, I do like him quite a bit. Chase Elliott, 10,400. He's starting 8th. I know I keep saying the same thing, but I like pretty much all of these guys. I would say Kevin Harvick is just a little bit lower in the totem pole for me, and I wouldn't say Chase Elliott's one of my absolute favorite plays here, but he is pretty good at Martinsville. Now, he only has 2 top 5s compared to the rest of these guys, which are at 5, 5. Now, Harvick's at 2 as well, but Blaney's at 4, Denny Hammond's at 3. But he's still been a lap leader before, and he's got a good chunk of fast laps as well, and I think he should be a threat here. He's another guy that would not mind winning this race. He isn't the absolute best at these types of tracks, 3 top 5s compared to the rest of these guys that are at 6, 5, and 7. And also not that many laps led at 15.4, but Chase Elliott, he should be a threat here for sure, and he's definitely going to be someone I have exposure to. And starting in 8th, you get a little bit of PD upside as well, so I think he's a strong tournament play. Denny Hammond, 10,200, he's starting 4th. I could see him being somewhat popular here, or actually not somewhat popular, very popular because of this price tag at 10,200. He was one of the guys that was absolute junk in the Martinsville race earlier on in the season, but for the most part, he is very, very good at Martinsville and very, very good at short flat tracks as well, so he's going to be one of the top threats to win this race. And if we're looking at his overall numbers, you guys get the idea. He is good at Martinsville, but if you're looking at his numbers at short flat tracks, he's got the most top 5s the past 10 races at these. Average finish is 7.8, 64.9 DraftKings points per race, which is only behind the 2 top dogs in Keselowski and Truex. 7 top 5s, which is the most, some of the most laps led, and some of the most fast laps. So Denny Hammond at only 10,200, I think is a very strong play here for sure. Going down to the 9K range, we have Joey Legano at 9,900. He's starting 7th. He was super, super fast here early on in the season. He led over 230 laps, and he was first in average green flag speed as well. So I'd expect him to be fast once again. He's also one of the best drivers at Martinsville. Best average running position of 5.6. He's got a win, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. Over 100 laps led per race, a good chunk of fast laps. And if you're looking at his numbers at these types of track, he's been good at those as well with a win, 5 top 5s, 8 top 10s, and a good amount of Dominator points, and just overall some of the best numbers. So Joey Legano, 9,900, I feel like he's a little bit underpriced here. I think he for sure should be above 10K, and you get a little bit of PD upside there as well, starting 7. So Joey Legano, one of my favorite plays on the slate. He's not that hard to fit in either at a below 10K price tag. Kyle Busch, 9,600. He's starting 9th. He finally got his first win of the 2020 season, keeping that 16-year streak alive, which was awesome. Now I did have a ton of Kyle Busch last week, so I was very happy for that reason. But I kind of like Kyle Busch. I know he's not a fan favorite, but I've always liked the color of his cars, and I can respect good racing, and he's definitely a good racer. I don't think there's any denying that, but it was just nice to see him back in victory lane. But I would expect him to be pretty popular. Actually, in the last Martinsville race earlier in the season, he was the highest owned driver, and he was over 50% owned, which is absolutely insane. Well, now he's cheaper this time around, and I believe he's starting 2 spots further back, because off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure he was starting 7th, and he was in the 10K price range. Now, he's not going to be over 50% owned once again. I think people have realized as the season has gone on that Kyle Busch has been struggling without practice, but since he got the win last week, that might bump his ownership up for sure. And starting 9th at 9,600, a track he's been very good at, I'm definitely going to have some interest here. And he makes for a good second or third dominator in your lineups at only 9,600. And if we're looking at his numbers at Martinsville recently, average running position of 7.6, 109 driver rating, a win, 4 top 5s, 51 laps led per race, and 42 fast laps. And I forget if I mentioned this about a minute ago, but he was one of the guys that was absolute junk to start this race, and he never really recovered. He's kind of stuck a lap down for the most part. He did get a few fast laps. I think he finished the race with 16, but he just could not recover from Hamlin was one of the guys that sucked. Ryan Blaney was, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hammond. A couple of those guys did end up recovering, but Kyle Busch, Denny Hammond they really couldn't get back on track in that race, which was unfortunate. But Kyle Busch should be a threat here, starting 9th, assuming his car doesn't turn to dust like it did not last year, but the last race they had here. He should be a very strong play at 9,600. He should be able to pick up some fast laps and contend for a top 5, maybe even get up front at some point. Jimmie Johnson, 9,300. He's starting 27th. I think he's a very interesting play here. So in the June race at Martinsville, I did not have any Jimmie Johnson because I want to say he was one of the most expensive drivers on the slate, and he was starting 21st. And at a track like Martinsville, I need to prioritize dominators over PD plays. But the crazy thing was that Jimmie Johnson was super fast. He was second in average green flag speed in that race, only behind Joey Legano. He actually ended up leading 70 laps. So I was pretty much sweating bullets there. He did not end up making the optimal lineup because a couple of other guys led a bunch of laps, and he kind of faded back a little bit. I want to say he finished around 10th. But starting 27th, the price did come down, and I think he's a solid play here. Now, his numbers at Martinsville recently haven't been the absolute greatest. Only one top 10 finishes, no top 5s, and 4 top 15s. But I'm encouraged what I saw earlier in the season at Martinsville. I think that speed's probably going to be somewhat close to what it was once again. And you got to keep in mind he is hanging up the fire suit in 2 races. So his last Cup race at Martinsville, I would imagine he's going to try to go out with a bang here. And he should be a top 10 contender, which I know I'd rather have a dominator because, look, a guy like Kyle Busch, like Jimmie Johnson is maybe a safer play, but I don't expect Jimmie Johnson to get up front lead 100 laps. Meanwhile, while Kyle Busch, he has the potential to get up front lead 100 laps and could absolutely blow Jimmie Johnson's score out of the water. So for tournaments, I like the guys that have the dominator potential. In cash games, Jimmie Johnson is a super safe play. Again, starting in 27th, he could very easily get a top 10 here, pick up some fast laps along the way. That's going to end up being pretty good. I just don't think he has the absolute ceiling as guys like Joey Legano and Kyle Busch, but I do think he's a pretty safe cash game play this week, just on an absolute necessity. Going down to Erik Jones, he's 9,000. He's starting 19th. He's got some PD upside, but really he's not that good at Martinsville. His average running position is actually lower than where he's going to be starting this race, which is pretty bad for where he's starting in 19th. His average running position is at 20.1. He has no top 5s here, no top 10s, no top 15s, and only 3 top 20s. Hasn't been a lap leader here, and only 2.8 fast laps per race. So I don't have much confidence in Erik Jones, and I feel like you can feel pretty good about not having much Erik Jones this week. Maybe you throw a couple lineups in there with him, but I don't have that much confidence. I'd much rather pay $300 more for Jimmie Johnson starting in 27th, who at least shown some speed in the last Martinsville race here. So Erik Jones, not super excited to play him. I probably won't have much at all. Now going down to the next price range, we have Alex Bowman at 8,700. He's starting 3rd. And I don't know if you guys remember my tweet that I sent out last time we were at Martinsville, but the past 2 drivers that started in 3rd both led over 400 laps. And then Joey Legano started 3rd in the last race back in June, and he led over 200 laps. So it's been a trend that the guy is starting in 3rd has had a very, very strong race. But I feel like that trend might stop here with Alex Bowman. I can't really see him getting up front, passing Truex or Keselowski at the jump. Maybe there's a slight chance that happens, and since there's a slight chance that happens, you should have a little bit of ownership on Alex Bowman, but I think it is pretty unlikely. But I'm just saying, a trend's a trend, and the guy starting in 3rd has happened to have been absolutely awesome here. Now, you got to keep in mind, the guys that have been starting in 3rd those past couple of races are guys that are super, super good here, so that plays in as well. I just thought it was a fun stat that the guy starting in 3rd has been an absolute dominator the past few Martinsville races. But Bowman, like, I wouldn't say he's bad here. He's not great, but average running position of 15.9. He does have 2 top 10 finishes the past 5 races here and 3 top 15s. It's not bad numbers, but starting 3rd, I can only see him really falling back for the most part. Like, I have a hard time seeing him finishing over guys like Joey Legano, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hammond, Truex, Keselowski, Kyle Busch here, so I can't really see him getting up front. So he's not someone I'm going to have too much ownership on, but maybe just a sprinkle. Just in case he has a super good restart, something happens, jump to the race, and something happens to Truex or Keselowski where Bowman gets up front and leads 100 laps at the beginning, because I don't want to be absolutely screwed if I don't have any of them. But I would not really be too interested in Alex Bowman overall. Kurt Busch, 8,500. He's starting 5th. He's good at Martinsville, but he's not really someone I'm going to expect to dominate. And if you're looking at the past 6 races, he hasn't led any laps. Some fast laps mixed in there, but starting 5th, I can really only see him moving back. He has no top 5 finishes here the past couple of years. Does have 3 top 10s, so he's probably going to finish anywhere from like 8th to 12th place probably, but that's not really enough for me at 8,500. Now, if he gets the top 5 and picks up some fast laps, maybe there's a slight chance he's optimal, but Now, it's a tough spot for Kurt Busch, and I'd rather play the guy right below him in Clint Bowyer at 8,300. He's starting 16th, and big fan of Clint here. And now, he kind of lucked out last week where the rain delay, and he just happened to be out front, ended up working out for him, and he was absolutely crushing. Now, he would have had a much better finish if it wasn't for running out of fuel early on, where he had to refuel, and he wasn't going to make it the full run. Then he had to pit before the race ended, so he kind of got screwed there. But this is a very good track for Clint. He's super good at the short tracks, and if you're looking at his numbers, average running position of 9.4, drive rating over 100, is a recent winner here, and he led over 200 laps in that race. He has 2 top 5 finishes with 3 top 10s, 36 laps led per race, and 27 fast laps. And overall, Clint does run pretty well at these short flat tracks. So 8,300 starting 16th. He's one of those guys that's in the mid-range, but he could be a potential dominator for sure. And you got to keep in mind, he's retiring too, and he wants to go out with a bang. And I definitely think he could be a very solid play on Sunday. So Clint Bowyer is one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. And you get a bit of PD upside there as well. Aric Almirola, 8,100. He's starting 20th. So he actually beat Ryan Blaney at the start of the race last time there at Martinsville and led the early laps, which was absolutely surprising. And I think I had like 0 Aric Almirola, so I was screwed city when the race started. But his car turned to absolute junk, and he had a horrible finish. And overall, his numbers at Martinsville, I wouldn't say are that good. He has 1 top 10 finish, 3 top 15s, and 4 top 20s. Not really much of a lap leader. Does have some fast laps, but overall, it's not a super good track for him. But starting 20th, I mean, you got top 10 potential there. If you're looking at how his numbers have been the past 10 races of these types of tracks, 4 top 10s, 5 top 15s. So I think he's a solid play. I would prefer Clint Bowyer just because he's very, very good here at Martinsville, and Aric Almirola is not quite as good, but starting 20th, that makes him a pretty strong PD play, and I'll definitely have some interest in Aric Almirola this week. Tyler Reddick, 7,900, he's starting 17th. Typically, rookies don't run all that well at Martinsville, but the first race here for him, Tyler Reddick did run pretty well, and I would say Reddick's not your normal rookie. He has looked very, very strong this season. And he actually had an average running position of 13.2 in that race. He finished 16th, which isn't great, but at 7,900, starting 17th, he has a race under his belt here, so he's got a little bit more experience. I could see him being a top 15 contender, and we know the guy can pick up some fast laps as well. And if you're looking at how he's done at the short flat tracks this season, these numbers are going to show up kind of orangish and reddish here in the wins and top 5 department, but don't forget he only has 4 career races at these in the Cup Series. But he's got an average running position of 14.9, has a top 10, 2 top 15s, and 3 top 20s. He should be a top 15 contender here, and I think that puts him in play for tournaments. William Byron, 7,700. He is starting 13th. He's solid at Martinsville. He does have a top 5 finishes. I keep wanting to say finishes when there's only like one. 1 top 5 finish, 2 top 10s, 2 top 15s, and 3 top 20s. Starting 13th, though, it makes him a pretty risky play, and he's only in play for tournaments for me. I don't know. I can really only see him moving back for the most part, but he's an interesting tournament play in case he happens to get a top 10 or maybe pick up some fast laps, or maybe he lucks out where he's up front, leads a decent chunk of the race, which I don't think is likely, but hey, you never know. Matt Kenseth, 7,500, starting 31st. DraftKings keeps raising his price tag, which is insane to me because he keeps wrecking his chalk, and starting 31st, like, that's a lot of money to pay for Matt Kenseth, the guy that just can't seem to finish races recently, and his price keeps on rising, which is going to put me off him. Like, he's a fine PD play, but the upside really isn't that high. And if you're looking at the 3 races he's had at these types of tracks this season, an average running position of 20.3, an average finish of 25.3, drive rating of 62.6, and 1 top 20. Not great numbers, but starting 31st, it's not that bad, but I just think there's better point per dollar options here. Like, he'll probably finally have his one good race, and I'm probably going to be a little bit lower on Matt Kenseth this week just because of what he's been doing, and it's just hard to trust him. But, man, I just don't want to play Matt Kenseth anymore. I really don't. And even then, back in June, he finished 23rd, but starting 31st, 7,500. I'd like a little bit more upside there. So Matt Kenseth, like, he's fine, but I just don't think there's a ton of upside there. Austin Dillon at $7,300. He is starting 14th, which puts him in a bit of a tricky spot. And Martinsville hasn't really been a great track for Austin Dillon. Average running position of 22.4 here with an average finish nearly at 25th. Does have 2 top 15s, but overall not a super strong track for Austin Dillon, and he's starting pretty high up as well. He's a tournament play only for me. If you're looking at the past 10 races at short flat tracks for Dillon, I mean, he's got some okay numbers actually, a top 5, 2 top 10s, and 4 top 15s. But overall, Martinsville, it hasn't been too strong for him, but he's in play for tournaments because there is some times where he just shows speed randomly, and he looks like a very, very strong, I almost was going to say a very strong car that night. But Bubba Wallace, I do like Bubba Wallace here. 7,200, which is a bit pricey for him, but he's starting 32nd. In Martinsville, he ran very well here in the June race. He got a top 15 and just narrowly finishing inside the top 10, but if he has a run like that again at 7,200 starting 32nd, there's a decent chance he can make the optimal lineup, and he actually has 2 top 15 finishes here with 3 top 20s, and overall I think he's a pretty strong play. I wish he was just a little bit cheaper, but I definitely think he's a fine mid-range play this week for sure, especially for where he's starting. MDB 7,000, he's starting 12th. He's a pretty good short track racer. The numbers overall, it's going to be bringing in a lot of numbers where he was in much worse equipment. So I'm willing to look past these numbers. But if we look at the past 10 races at short flat tracks, the numbers are pretty strong for MDB. Running position of 14.5, average finish of 13.6, a top 5, 3 top 10s, 6 top 15s, and 9 top 20s, which is quite up there, especially for guys in this price range. So I like MDB in tournaments, but starting 12th, there's not a lot of room for error here, but he does have top 10 potential, so I would play him in tournaments, but I would not go anywhere near him in cash games just because of where he is starting. I think there's better point per dollar option plays on this slate. Moving down to the 6K range, we have Cole Custer at 6,900 starting 15th. Kind of just had some rookie struggles here in his first race. He had an average driver rating of 45.6, which is horrendous. He finished 29th, had an average running position of 28th. Starting 15th, yeah, he has more experience now with one race, but even then, it's less experience than most of these guys in this field. He's probably going to only move back for the most part, so I'm not super interested in Cole Custer. Maybe just a sprinkle of him just in case he stays within the top 15 at 6,900, but I think it's a pretty unlikely scenario for him. Christopher Bell, kind of the same boat as Cole Custer, was absolute trash here in the first race. Had pretty much similar numbers to Cole Custer, like nearly identical, pretty much the same average running position, pretty much the same driver rating. They finished right beside each other. Bell happened to score like 1.5 more points, but starting 11th, tough spot for me, and probably not someone I would really have too much interest in. But Chris Buescher, 6,700, starting 28th. I really like Chris Buescher here. He had a top 15 finish here earlier in the season, and overall, he's actually pretty good at Martinsville. Average finish of 17.7 here, running position inside the top 20, 3 top 15 finishes and 3 top 20s, and starting 28th. He's going to be a very nice PD play, and I like this price point as well. I'm surprised he's not above 7K because DraftKings does like to price these guys starting pretty far in the back, and Chris Buescher's not an absolute scrub, so I think we're getting an awesome price tag on him. I think we're getting him in a nice starting spot, so Chris Buescher definitely someone I'm going to have a lot of interest in. Ryan Newman, 6,500, kind of a similar play here to Chris Buescher. He also finished inside the top 15. Buescher, Newman, I believe Wallace, they all finished right beside each other. I think it was either 11th, 12th, or 13th. There was 12th, 13th, and 4th. It was somewhere right around there, and they all had some pretty good races, and they did start a little bit further in the back. So they ended up having some pretty strong races, and I think we probably see something similar here. And Ryan Newman, he's pretty good at Martinsville. Average finish at 14.3, running position at 15.9, 2 top 10 finishes, 4 top 15s, and 5 top 20s. Starting 21st to 6,500. I know he's been a pretty boring play so far this season because he just always seems to be like a 15th to 20th place guy, but at 6,500, that's not too bad starting 21st, and this is a pretty unique track, and he does run well here, so I think he should have a pretty strong showing, and he has plenty of experience here, which always works well at Martinsville as well. And if you look at his numbers at these types of tracks, the past 9 races actually for him, pretty good numbers, averaging 40 DraftKings points per race, has 4 top 10s, 5 top 15s, average of 8.2 place differential per race. So Newman, 6,500. I know he's not starting super far back, but I think he's definitely a nice top 15 contender for sure. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 6,300. He is starting 18th. His numbers at Martinsville aren't that impressive. An average finish that's outside the top 20, average running position of 23.5. Does have a top 10 finish and 2 top 15s and 3 top 20s. The price is nice. I feel like this might be the lowest price tag we've seen on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this season at 6,300. I'm not totally sure, but it's at least close to it. But I just wish he was starting a little bit further back, because 18th, I feel like he's going to finish anywhere from, I would say, 15th to like maybe 25th, and then more than likely, I think it's going to be outside the top 20. But 6,300, he has top 15 potential, and that's a really nice price tag, so I'll definitely have some interest in him in tournaments. Michael McDowell, 6,100, he's starting 24th, and he actually had a decent finish here earlier in the season, where he finished 14th, starting in nearly 30th. He was actually starting in 29th, and I like this price tag at $6,100. Now, overall, his numbers at Martinsville haven't been super impressive. 2 top 20s and 1 top 15. That was coming in the June race, but I mean, starting 24th, I think he's a fine play. He's made some strides this season. He's been someone we can kind of count on. He's been having some pretty good finishes for sure. Overall, his numbers aren't super strong. We just have 4 top 20 finishes the past 10 races at these types of tracks. So Michael McDowell, he's just one of these guys you kind of sprinkle in at the end. Like, I don't have a strong lean on McDowell, Ty Dillon, Nemechek, Priest, LaJoie, any of these guys. They're kind of guys you just kind of throw 15 to 25% exposure on all of them, and you kind of just hope that they kind of work out for the most part, and they just happen to be in the right combination for the optimal lineup. It's kind of what I do most weeks for these guys. Like, if I like Dillon the most, I'm not going to go 80% Ty Dillon and just have like 5% McDowell, Nemechek, Priest. I don't really have a strong lean here with no practice. It's kind of more of a guessing game, so I think you just set yourself up right with roster construction and just kind of setting these guys to, okay, I like 20% McDowell, 25% Dillon, 15% Nemechek, 20% Priest. I'm just throwing out random numbers, but that's kind of what I'm doing this season and just kind of hoping these guys fall in the right combination for the most part. Ty Dillon, 5,900, starting 25th. I think he's a pretty strong play. If you're looking at his numbers at Martinsville, they're not that bad for someone of his caliber, averaging 30 DraftKings points per race, an average finish of 21st, 2 top 15 finishes with 2 top 20s, averaging 5.7 spots gained per race here. That's not that bad. He's below 6K, and we're going to have to use some of these guys to fit in our dominators because we want dominators in our lineups, and if we're using multiple of these, or 2 to 3 or 4 of these guys in our lineups, we're going to have to go dumpster diving a bit, so I mean, all these guys are playable for me, but Ty Dillon, not that bad. Does have 4 top 10, or not top 10. I wish it was 4 top 10 finishes. 4 top 20 finishes at these types of tracks the past 10 races, which isn't that bad. So Dillon's on my radar, but not an exciting play. Nemechek only has 1 race here. It wasn't great, although it was a little bit better than Custer and Christopher Bell, which is an accomplishment in its own because he's in worse equipment. But he finished 25th. Had an average running position of 21.4, driver rating of 56. Again, not strong numbers. If you're looking at how he's done at these types of tracks this season, it hasn't been pretty either. Zero top 20 finishes with an average finish of 28.6 and only averaging 15.5 DraftKings points per race. So, I mean, he's just one of those guys you're throwing a little bit of exposure and just kind of hope they hit for the most part. Ryan Priest, starting 22nd, 5,600. He's cheap. He has an average running position of 20.1 on Martinsville, which is not that bad, and 2 top 20 finishes. It's just, I wish he was starting a little bit further back, but the price is nice, and he's just one of those guys you throw in at the end and hope they work for the most part. Corey LaJoie, 5,500. He's starting 26. He has a couple of top 20 finishes here at Martinsville, and early on in the season, he did finish 18th here, and if he did that again at 5,500 starting 26, I'd say there's a good chance he hits the optimal as long as you have the right dominator. So I don't mind LaJoie. I think he's a fine play. Daniel Suarez at 5,400 starting 29th. This is probably right where he's going to finish. Now, if you're looking at his numbers, you're probably thinking this is the easiest play of the slate, but if you were new to NASCAR and this is your first time watching a NASCAR DFS video for some reason, Daniel Suarez is in trash equipment now. We call him the lawnmower man, or at least I do, because he is in a car that is super, super slow. I compare it to a lawnmower. He's definitely not in Stewart-Haas equipment anymore, and he has some pretty good numbers here relative to where he's priced now and the rest of these guys here, but these days he's kind of like a 27th to 30th place car for the most part. That's kind of evident to what his numbers look like this season. Like his average running position is 27.8, driver rating of 45.6, which is actually worse than Corey LaJoie. Average finish of 26.2, and only 3 top 20 finishes this season. So he's probably going to finish right around where he starts. Then after Suarez, it gets ugly quick. You got Smithley, Yaley, Poole, Davison, Gase, Hauff, Timmy Hill, and Balicki. You can't really trust these guys, and for the most part, these guys do not make optimal lineups outside of super speedways, so I feel like they're best to be avoided. Maybe you take a shot on one and just load up your dominators, and maybe it works out if you just absolutely nail the dominators, but for the most part, these guys just can't hang. They fall so many laps behind, and a track like Martinsville, they're going to fall a ton of laps behind, although most of the field's going to definitely get lapped here, but these guys just typically make optimal lineups. But that's pretty much going to be it for the video, guys, so I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure you leave a like, and if you made it all the way through the video, let me know in the comments below. I always love knowing who makes it all the way through. You guys are the troopers, and unfortunately, we only have one more video for this season, but it was a pleasure and honor being able to help you guys out. It was a super fun season. I'm hoping all of you guys return next season as well. We will be back in early February breaking everything down. We'll have the Patreon content, and we'll be doing the live streams once again and the DraftKings contest, which I haven't been doing those because football season has taken over, and there's not going to be a lot too many people interested in NASCAR DFS with NFL going on. But we'll start those right back up again when we get Daytona. We'll have the Clash, the duels, and that fun stuff as well. So that's going to be it for the video, guys. I already said that, but leave likes down below. Leave your comments down below. Follow me on social media if you want. Support my content over on Patreon. And that's pretty much going to be it. I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope you have a fantastic race.